Hello and welcome. I'd first like to congratulate you for embarking on this journey of belly dance with me and investing into yourself, your body, and your mind and spirit. I know you're going to love it, so let's get started. In this video, I'll be covering some of the most important information, which is home position, where all of the belly dance moves stem from, and a couple of drills that can help you get started with isolating. So let's get started. We are going to place the feet right underneath the hip width of your own body, toes pointed forward, and we're going to start by bending the knees. Just to start and kind of get warmed up, and also get in the habit of having the knees not straighten all the way, we're going to do these little bounces. And like I just said, we're going to practice not completely straightening the legs. So we're moving about half an inch with the legs. Try to avoid lifting the legs and hitting back. Instead, imagine you're sitting into a chair, or you're about to sit into a chair. And so you bring the weight of the pelvis over the heels of the feet, and then just start by bouncing and getting used to playing within that small half an inch area. I'll go and face forward again so you can see. So the feet are really solid on the floor. You're sinking the weight of the pelvis down into the floor. I like to imagine that my pelvis is a bowl filled with heavy rocks or something really heavy, maybe a bunch of apples or anything really. And it's kind of helping you weight into the floor as opposed to lifting up and bouncing the head and the chest. So yes, while we're bouncing both knees, everything in the body is going to be bouncing because we're not isolating as we would be in a shimmy. But right now we're just practice getting that small kind of shock absorption in the knees. So I like to think of the body as a vehicle, and the knees are the shock absorbers. They're the suspension in the vehicle that helps us not get crunched up in the joints or to hit our maximum capacity, but instead we stay really sunken and grounded into the floor. So bending the knees now, we'll stop the bounce. We're going to move up the body and we're going to move into the pelvis. So I'd like for you to go ahead and feel where the end of your pelvic bone is here and the two sides of your hips. I'll move a little bit closer, but just know that my feet are still underneath my hip width. And so we have this triangle here, and we're going to take the point of the triangle and we're going to lift that up towards the ceiling, bringing the upper part, this flat part of the triangle back, the belly button and the lower dantian here back. So this is a lot easier to see from the side. So in other words, what's happening here is I'm flattening out that natural arch that I have in the spine. We're gonna flatten that out and open the vertebrae right in the lower spine. And the sacrum here is also a triangle. I'll give you some different views. So the sacrum here is also a triangle, and we want that point of the triangle to go down towards the floor, or maybe even imagining a tail that we're tucking in between the legs. So while you're doing this, make sure that you're not squeezing the glutes. Right here, we're starting to open the back of the body, and we want to send energy down the backs, the legs, the knees stay bent, and yes, belly dance is a big workout for the quads. Releasing. So I'm not using music in this video because this is more about bringing in the technique and the language and the fundamentals, or the building blocks of belly dance. So this is something that you can take and continue to practice to any music and continue to grow from it. So pulling in the lower belly, pulling in the pelvis, and I want you really to think about what your skeleton is doing. So we're, for the most part, trying to relax the muscles and allow the tip here of the tailbone to tuck and try to look at the ceiling or the sky if you're outside. That might be nice. So we're tilting up and dropping down, tilting up and dropping down. Some other important notes are, when you are, I'm going to give you some different angles, but when you are releasing, try not to push your lower back out into a big arch. So a lot of people want to make it look big and they'll start to push back. That is a way to develop some pretty bad habits in belly dance, and not just in the way that it looks, but the idea here is that we want to create healthy movement for the spine. So when we sit down, we're crunching our spine, and oftentimes when we stand, we have a big sway back. So if we really want to try to open and release, and again, lengthen that lower spine, and then just relax into the normal position where your normal sway back is, so that we're developing the internal lower muscles in the lower belly as opposed to tightening the muscles in the lower back. If you have any lower back issues, then this can be really good for you, because the more that you strengthen the muscles and the internal organs and everything from the inside or the front of the stomach, you're lengthening and extending the muscles and whatever might be tight or pulled in the back. Good. So practicing here. I'll face forward and let's get on a rhythm together. Tuck and tuck and tuck and tuck. Again, we're opening up the lower vertebrae in the back, imagining that you're touching the small of the back where there's normally an arch to an imaginary wall. You're sinking the weight into the floor, especially putting weight into the heels of the feet, ideally not rocking forward too much. So here I am rocking forward. You really want to be sinking and sitting into that imaginary chair. Awesome. Tuck. And let's go a little faster. Tuck, 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 tuck. So while we're doing this, I want to encourage you to go ahead and start, or hopefully you already are, but breathing regularly. So unlike yoga, belly dance is not relying on the breath to control the moves. Otherwise, if we did a shimmy, we might pass out because some moves get really fast. Instead, we're building the internal muscles, and they are going to become a part of this autopilot and this muscle memory, and they're going to help you through the dance, not the breath. So as you're doing this, you might think, inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth, and 3, 4, or whatever works for you. But you don't want to be holding the breath or thinking in, out, in, out. And now we're going to go a little faster. Tuck, 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 relax. Awesome. While you're relaxed, if you imagine your pelvis as a bowl of water, you would want to think of the water overflowing forward. Generally, in belly dance, we don't want the water to overflow forward because that would put us, once again, into this sway back, which when we start doing hip lifts or hip pushes is going to start to crunch the lower spine. Instead, we want that triangle to be facing forward. We want the lower back to be open, and we want the water not to be spilling. And we can also think of water as our energy. So here, this is the second chakra. I will get more into chakras in other courses, but this is where we have a lot of our creativity and sensuality and expression, and we don't always want to spill that forward. So we're gonna hold this in, and we're gonna lock it in place. So let's just go ahead and lock our hands here. Yes. We're gonna hold this triangle, and we're gonna move to the next step. So without squeezing your glutes, staying solid into the floor and tucking the lower pelvis, we're going to move up into the chest. So first of all, just go ahead and let yourself slouch. If it helps, you can look down at the belly button when you slouch and make sure that you're letting the entire upper spine have a little curve to it. Then imagine that you had a little hook here on the chest, and a string is going to lift the chest straight up towards the ceiling. And drop, and lift, and drop, and lift. So I'm keeping my hands here because ideally, if you don't have a mirror or you're looking at me, you want the triangle to continue to face forward. We're already doing our first isolation, and the building blocks of belly dance are actually some of the harder parts of belly dance because it's where you learn the technique and the isolations and the fundamentals. And then from there we can put together all sorts of sentences, but we're learning the vocabulary, we're learning the alphabet right now. And that can be some of the most challenging parts, but also very rewarding. So I'm going to show you different views because it's very different looking from different positions. But the main thing here is that you want to try to keep that lower belly tuck. You want to try to keep the knees bent so that we're really, again, just isolating and moving the chest. Exactly. Your head's in the same spot. Beautiful. All of these moves would be a lot easier with a little bit of a warm-up before. Great. So we're really letting the chest sink down, and then we're trying to lift the ribs straight up. So we want the ribs to stay over the hips, so a big sink and then a lift straight up, as opposed to bringing the chest forward, which is a different move. And since we're working on home position where everything is stemming from, I don't want you to be rocking your weight forward or your chest to be forward and you to look like this when you're dancing. I want each vertebrae to be lengthened up above the heels. So one more time, bending, tucking, drop the chest and lift straight up. Hips are above the heels, chest is above the hips. And so from the side, it's like I just rolled up this imaginary wall and the chest is really proud. The last part of this home position is going to be a shoulder roll. So let's just start to roll the shoulders from front to back. If you feel like you have any crunches in the shoulders, then just take it easy. Maybe go a little softer on them. Maybe make the circles a little bit smaller. The idea here is to allow the synovial fluid in the joints to come out and help ease the crunches as opposed to pushing yourself to the furthest extent. Beautiful. One more time, lifting the shoulders, rolling them back, and we're going to tuck the shoulder blades into our imaginary back pockets. So our chest is really proud and lifted. The rib cage is separated from the hips and the knees are bent. So we're ready from this home position to do all sorts of belly dance movements. Awesome. So let's go through that one more time and we'll just kind of drill this. So we're going to bend the knees, tuck the pelvis, drop the chest, and then lift straight up and roll the shoulders back. So in a lot of the next videos, I'll be saying 5, 6, 7, 8, and here we go. Awesome. So next I'm going to give you a little bit of homework that you can practice with any music, any beat, any tempo. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an 8 count of the tucks, and then we'll move into an 8 count of the lifts, trying your best to isolate. It does not matter how big the movement is. So let's start in our normal little arch or natural position, and we're going to tuck on 1. Here we go, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Tuck, hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Drop, release. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and tuck, lift, drop, lift, 5, 6, 7, 8, and down for 4, 2, 3, 4, up, 2, 3, 4, drop, release, and up, and drop, 2, 3, 4, tuck. Then let's take it to 2. Drop, tuck, hold that tuck, lift, drop. Drop the pelvis, tuck, hold. This is the tricky part. Lift and drop. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This right here is a great start if you want just one thing to practice. And the reason is that when you tuck, right when you're about to lift, you gotta lock in. So what I want you to be aware that I don't want you to do, what I want you to be aware that you shouldn't do, and not build bad habits before you get too far along, is this. So you don't want to release, tuck, and then release as you pop the chest up. So you can see that's not in isolation. I'm kind of letting the whole spine move front and back at the same time. So instead, I'll show you it correctly so that I leave this in your brain. Release, tuck, lift, drop, release, tuck, lift, drop. And that's breaking that into just two moves, which is the building block for a body roll. We're gonna take it into 3. That way you can get a little more fluidity. We're gonna add the drop before the lift. So we're gonna tuck, drop the chest. So you should feel like kind of like a slouch, like a C curve in your spine, because you're tucked in the hips and you're slouched. And then we're gonna lift from there. And the same thing coming down, we're gonna slouch, pull the lower belly into a big C curve, and then relax. So it'll be like a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. You can think 1 and 2, 1 and 2. If this is confusing you, or you want to start with just the 2 sections, you can just break that into 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. So when you're adding the and, we're adding this C curve, and I call it a C even though I'm not completely like hunched over in modern dance, but I feel my lower sacrum is tucking in between my legs. My lower tailbone is getting pulled in between the legs as my chest is dropped, so I feel like a C curve, and then I release the bowl, the pelvis or the bowl, where it spills for a minute, and then I tuck, drop, and lift. Good. So review one last time. Home position, feet, toes pointing forward, sitting down into an imaginary chair, bringing the lower pelvic bone up towards the ceiling, making sure that that imaginary triangle is facing forward. I'm going to drop the chest, then lift it straight up, roll the shoulders back and down, and if you'd like to, release through the hands. Come back up to your normal standing position. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I might start some of our next videos with that 5, 6, 7 prep time, and we'll learn a whole bunch more, and you'll see why that home position is so important. If you have any questions, let me know, and I hope you enjoy exploring and finding your home in your body's temple. Thank you so much.